A wide-ranging conversation with Bob Dr. Mac LeVitus. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter to keep you up on all the latest from MacVoices. Watch or listen to MacVoices straight from your email client. Sign up at macvoices.com/newsletter and stay up to date. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's been way too long since we talked to our guest this time around. You know him, you love him, the next governor of Texas, Dr. Bob LeVitus.
If the Democrats don't find a good candidate soon, I might just have to do that.
There you go.
Although I don't think I'll be eligible because you have to live in Texas to be the governor, and I'm moving.
I don't, Bob. I was hoping for like a Mac in every pot or something.
I'm moving to Montana soon.
Yeah, what was that old campaign? A chicken in every pot? How about a Mac on every desk? There we go.
A Mac on every desk. Not in Dell country, I don't think.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. How you been? It's been entirely too long.
I have been awesome. I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day, kind of. It's like the past couple of years, all I've done is rewrite books that I rewrote last year and the year before and the year before, and not much else. You know, I did 3 books this year, and they were all remakes of books I updated. Well, most of them that I updated last year and the year before and the year before. And then there was GarageBand for Dummies, which hadn't been updated in 15 years. So it required a little bit of work. But, you know, other than that, and writing a column every week, which, although each column is different, it's still kind of Groundhog Day. You know, it's Wednesday. You've got a column due at noon. Have you even considered a topic? You know, stuff like that. And, you know, being of the older persuasion, it's been in my best interest not to go out all that much, not to go that many places. Certainly I haven't been to like a live music show or a movie theater or anything like that in a long time. But I've been good. I mean, I'm healthy. I'm happy. We're going on a road trip in a couple of weeks to the Cadillac Ranch. Yeah.
Good.
I want to see all the stuff in Texas that I've never seen before I leave. So we're doing a road trip to we're going to go to the place where if you eat the 72 ounces of steak in an hour, you get it free. We're not going to do that. We just want to go there and have dinner and, with any luck at all, watch some other idiot try to do that.
Yeah. Let them suffer through and get.
Oh yeah. You know, when I was like 18, I probably would have taken them up on that. 6 pounds of meat in one sitting in an hour. I might have been able to do that, but not today. You know, you have to be in training for that for months.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what kind of training you do that doesn't put massive amounts of weights on you, but you know.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. How does that hot dog guy do it?
I have no idea.
The guy that eats all those hot dogs, he's not big, but he trains and I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I have no interest in competitive eating, thank you.
Well, you've been doing a few more articles, a pretty regular set of articles on the Mac Observer, and you've been showing
Well, I've been a columnist. I've been a columnist for the Mac Observer and still am for 20 years, 21 years. I don't know, a long time. So we're at episode 450 something. So divide that by 52 weeks. And then before that, I wrote sporadically, you know. And I still write for the Houston Chronicle. And, you know, I'm getting ready to retire from book writing. I think next year I'm going to not update the books again and just, you know, I don't know. It's so hard when you've got a book that's a franchise and they ask you to update it for next year because it's your baby and, you know, it's like you've cared for it its whole life already. And you don't really want to see it fall into the hands of a stranger. And I don't know. On the other hand, I don't want to work next summer. I want to like travel and not worry about it and not spend my whole summer rewriting iPhone for Dummies and iPad for Dummies and Mac OS. What do you think the next one will be called? They've used up all the cities in California now and all the jungle cats. What do you think the next one's going to be? Dog breeds. It's going to be Mac OS St. Bernard.
Yeah.
Mac OS Great Dane. Or my favorite, Mac OS Vizsla. Yeah.
So I'm kind of anxious to hear what your thoughts are about just Apple in general, the way they've come through the last couple of years that have been so challenging. They've released the M1 Mac. We have new iPads out there that are very, very nice. You know, they're fantastic. As we record this, we are looking down the barrel of another Apple event in a couple days that we all expect will be MacBook Pros, but we're not sure. It seems like, in spite of all the challenges, that Apple really has continued to keep up the pace. And
I think so. I think they've done great. I mean, for them to do the transition from Intel, or at least the first part of it, and do it as well as they've done it, with as few hiccups as there were, along with, maintaining and improving all the other product lines. And, I hear there's a wearable, like eyeglass kind of augmented reality thing in the pipeline. So I'm sure that they're working on more interesting stuff for the future. But I think they've done really well through the past couple of years of pandemic, acting like nothing was wrong. I mean, they're acting like Apple. Now, they have, I think, been fortunate or maybe just well managed, but they have avoided a lot of the problems that have plagued other sectors, like shortages of raw material. Mostly Apple has had things in stock this whole time. You get the usual fluctuations when something first comes out, they're in short supply, but there hasn't been, like a big slowdown or anything. And they really have proceeded pretty much at their normal pace of revving their products. So, yeah, I think Apple, faced with massive challenges from COVID and market conditions and everything else, I think they've really held up well. I mean, there's other businesses that haven't. I think the hotel business, maybe the airline business, although it seems to be making a comeback. But there's been other sectors where the zombie flu, really affected their business negatively. And I don't know. I don't really pay attention to Apple's financials, and I don't follow the stock very closely. So I don't know, how the market thinks they're doing, but I suspect they're holding up okay. I have high hopes. I think Apple's going to be around for as long as I'm going to be alive, and with any luck at all, as long as my kids will be alive, and they'll keep surprising us with, cool new things. I'd love a headset that I could wear instead of that, so that I could have the computer in my pocket and just kind of look at it out of one eye. That'd be awesome. Movies that look like they're 20 feet high in front of you.
And
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's hard to say specifically, but I think a lot of those things have the potential to come. It's going to be figuring out how to make them, I guess, useful, maybe is the best way to say it, because we now live in a world of collaboration that's the buzzword that everybody pays attention to. And I sometimes wonder about sealing myself in behind a set of AR glasses.
Yeah, I don't think it's something you do for all the time. Like, it might be okay though for if you've got a camera somewhere else, might be fine for doing video chatting. As long as the camera is somewhere out in the room, keep it tracking you. It's got a gimbal, and you wear a little pendant so it knows where you are, and it just, auto tracks you wherever you go. You could wear your glasses, which means you could have all of the data that's on your screen, but you wouldn't have to look over here while you're on the podcast over here.
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
I think it's more of a thing where most of the time it would be something you used when you were alone in a room like this. Although video collaboration doesn't seem far-fetched. It would seem pretty natural to not have to look into something.
Well, but you bring up
and
a really
be cognizant of where the thing is.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting, and I look. I forgot. I've got two screens. Hold on. I'm moving you on the screen where the camera is because I keep looking over here where you are now, which isn't where I'm supposed to look. I'm supposed to look in here, right? So now I put you over here, but that's
But you bring up a really interesting point that I hadn't exactly thought about. Is that it's one thing for me to be in a room with people. And, that's great. I'm seeing them, they're seeing me, like on a Zoom call, but maybe just, up close. But there's got to be a camera feed showing those people. And if they're wearing their AR glasses, then all I'm going to see is somebody looking like they have a big, heavy pair of shades on or goggles. And so that kind of changes that experience. Unless we start moving into the
unless the goggle has a gooseneck, endoscopic lens that goes out about 4 feet in front of you and just points back, then your camera would follow you around even when you were wearing your glasses.
Well, it feels more like we might be heading into the area of avatars, at that point, that, which that opens up a whole different set of discussions.
I don't know. That seems like a stretch for banking businesses and doctors and stuff. Oh, look at the avatar. Look, I'm going to dress my avatar in leather. So it reflects my personality.
This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Upstart. Fair and fast personal loans. Visit upstart.com/MacVoices and find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments. Just like so many things at the moment, your finances may be changing. The last thing you need is to be burdened by high credit card interest rates or other debt that may be hindering you getting back to normal. Upstart can help. Upstart is fair and fast personal loans, all done online. Those credit cards I mentioned, funding personal expenses, whatever has you paying high interest rates can be helped by Upstart's simple 5-minute check to see what your online rate is. And it's bound to be better than other options out there because Upstart looks at more than just your credit score. They consider your income and current employment to find you a smarter rate on loans from $1,000 to $50,000. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/MacVoices. That's Upstart, UPSTART.com/MacVoices. Don't forget to use my URL to let them know I sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/MacVoices right now. Thanks to Upstart for their support of MacVoices. Yeah, no, I agree. And every time I've encountered avatars, I've done just a little bit of VR playing around, and it is interesting because it changes the dynamics of the interaction, but you're still using an avatar. And, no matter how good it is, it's still jerky and the frame rate is low, and it's clear that you're in a poorly made cartoon, if you will. But it still is interaction, and it still is different and in some cases better than just a flat out Zoom meeting or what we're doing here.
Well, I agree, and I actually communicate with people I like using animojis a lot because I like my little avatar, and sometimes I like to be a talking poop. So, I believe there's a place for that. I don't know if it'll ever be in mainstream business, if that'll ever be acceptable that you're going to go to a meeting and your avatar is going to stand in for you. I would believe before that you would somehow get a module that's got a lens and a little camera and maybe Bluetooth that you can place somewhere in your office, and it'll just do the video part from a distance, from, an appropriate distance. So you don't have to be a slave to the box on the desk.
Right.
We'll see. That's what's so great about the future is, like, you can make up anything you want and guess that that's what's going to happen. But the only way to find out is to wait. So we'll see. But I think we'll see sooner rather than later. I think you're going to start to see these augmented reality eyewear in the next couple of years. And, I think in 5 or 10 years, there could be a lot of places where it's in use commercially. I can see stores using that so that you can virtually try things on in the store just by looking at the tag. Because, it knows what you look like, and it knows what that outfit looks like, and it can put 2 and 2 together and give you a lot faster than going to the changing room. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up.
Well, but those are the things that I think are going to drive this. There have to be applications. I mean, look, I know gaming is huge, and I'm not a gamer, so that sort of takes that whole thing out. So I'm looking for the more practical applications to some of this tech, and there's no question. Clothes trying on, clothes buying is one. Home decorating, engineering, home design. All those things have a lot of potential in AR. AR and VR. So, I don't know. It's interesting. But you said, about predicting the future, and it feels like over the past couple of years, because of the pandemic and all the changes, that we have moved into the future a little bit. Sometimes it's in fits and starts, and it may be a little painful in places, but it feels like we've had to try things out of necessity that probably wouldn't have gotten tried for years, if ever, and we were forced into it.
Well, one thing's for sure, and that's that virtual meetings became a real thing. It's like for you or for me, they were already a thing because I was doing like user group presentations virtually years before pandemic time. And so, I was accustomed to talking to more than one person through my computer with a microphone and a camera. So it didn't strike me as that new or unusual, but a lot of people had never done it before. And all of a sudden, it's the only way they're having meetings, the only way that they're able to confer with a couple of people in real time. And, and see the expressions on their faces, which matters when you're trying to accomplish stuff together, when you're a team. So I think a lot of teams moved into remote working and video collaborating a lot sooner than they would have without the zombie virus.
Yeah, I agree. And now, I just was reading earlier today, another X number of million people resigned from their jobs in August, and that's on top of another X number of million in July. And
can't blame them.
Well, everything's shifting around, and I think everybody's reevaluating just about everything in their lives.
I think the whole work till you're 65 and then retire paradigm is being left behind. I think a lot of younger people are looking at what they can do to take control of their life now and work when they want to and not work when they don't want to, and not try to do something they don't like just to amass wealth. It seems a lot of kids that used to go to work for big companies and used to go to work in food service and used to do lots of stuff are instead becoming entrepreneurs. They're either working a gig economy job like Favor or Uber or Lyft or whatever. They're doing stuff like that when they need to, but they're not taking 9-to-5 jobs they hate. And they're not taking underpaying jobs just to pay the rent if they can do something else, and they're all looking for that something else. And, the gig economy really, I think, accelerates that because it gives you a lot of options. No, you aren't going to get rich that way. But if you're trying to do something else and you don't want to spend a third of your day or a third of your hours slaving for someone else just to pay the rent, that they're a great alternative. And I see a lot of young people starting businesses or going to work for startups and, offering them sweat equity because they can afford to. They can be very frugal to get where they want to be. And I think a lot of people are looking at what can I do so that I don't have to just keep working at a job I hate till I'm old. Now, I did that a long time ago. I really did. I used to work for big companies and stuff like that. And I realized I don't like having bosses. I don't like meetings. I don't like people mostly. And I certainly don't like when people that aren't as smart as me make stupid decisions and I have to live with the consequences. So it wasn't long after, most of the jobs I've ever had that I had a disagreement with my boss and left. And I realized I'm just not cut out for that kind of work. It's like I'm not it's not that I'm not a team player, because writing a book is a team effort, and I love my team that I work with when I write books, and I love the editors I work with on columns and things like that. But that's a whole different thing. They're not like lording over me 40 hours a week. They're like, if I do my job right, I hardly ever hear from them, and that's fine too. But I'm free to work the hours I want and do things on my schedule rather than be somewhere 40 hours at a time or account for that many hours. It's like being a writer, you don't really have to account for your hours if you make your deadlines. As long as your stuff is done on time and it's good, you don't have to say it only took me 2 hours to write that. Nobody knows, nobody cares, as long as you do it. And that's what, I think a lot of kids these days are saying, I'd rather make less money and not have to wake up every morning and go somewhere and do something all day. I'd rather live more frugally and try to find my muse, find what I love and make a living doing that. I just think a lot of people aren't looking at, long-term service to the same employer as an option for their life.
So where do you see tech playing into this? Do you see it facilitating that, or is it one of the things that's making this possible?
I think tech has adopted this remote. Well, I think we had always had some sense that we were a global business and a global industry, and that the appeal of things is global. And a lot of a lot of tech we use and see in America is based on stuff that comes from elsewhere. I think going forward, the fact that we are okay with our compatriots being in other time zones and countries and have kind of grown up in that world, whereas most other industries haven't, I think that puts us ahead. I think that makes it easier for us to find collaborators maybe that aren't in our same country or even in our same hemisphere, and be able to work with them and be able to, come up with things without having to bring everybody to a city and, force them to buy unaffordable housing in that city, if that's the case. And in Silicon Valley, it is. So I think the fact that they're doing so much remote working and they're encouraging it and always kind of have, I think will continue to drive innovation and make that a desirable industry to work in. It's like if you're an engineer, you can program at home, or you can program in a cubicle farm, but you're still going to, be responsible for turning out the same amount of good code every day, and you're still going to have to meet with the same people, either virtually or in person. And so I think a lot of people wouldn't choose to go spend 60 hours a week at the Apple campus, but would choose to work 70 hours a week if it's on their own terms. So, I think a lot of people are going to go into these businesses based on whether they can work remotely and not have to be so tied to a clock. And I think that the tech business will adapt to that the most quickly, or will be among those industries that becomes the norm more quickly. Because I think we've seen, or at least I've seen, that you can today do business with people anywhere. You can even do business with people that don't speak the same language. It's a little more difficult, but it's doable, and without the expense of flying a team to Switzerland or whatever it is. We've become a much more global industry and world, and the fact that you can have team members or collaborators anywhere on Earth, and have the same level of communication with them. There's no telling what'll come next, but I think the tech industry will remain a popular place for people to work. I mean, there's something fun about being in on the next big thing, I never worked at Apple, but I always thought probably a lot of the people that work there just love the fact that they're part of. I was part of the iPhone team. I was part of the Mac team in 1984. That's something, It's like you're part of a piece of our culture. Some more than others.
Bob, Dr. Mac LeVitus will be back in the next edition of MacVoices to continue our conversation and also share a little bit of life advice. That's next time on MacVoices, and I hope you will join us. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.